It was like a voice inside of me told me one night, no, you have to get back into music again. And I was like, no, really? Just want to say, like, put your music out there. Even if it doesn't do anything, like, initially, you never know. 2 years later, it could be in a film or ESPN's using it in a TikTok, okay? So definitely Rejection is a hard one at first, but if you just try to remember that no is actually redirecting you to something that's actually probably better meant for you.
Success in electronic dance music isn't just about talent. It's about handling the pressure as your career grows. I'm Dr. Sunni, performance psychologist and coach, and this is Psych Drop, where artists and industry leaders share what it really takes to build a sustainable career. Our guest today is Bexxie. Excited to have her here. She is a house music DJ and producer with roots going back to the late 90s rave scene. She has releases on Beats, Tool Room, Drum Code, and Insomniac, and has toured with Seven Lions and played EDC Las Vegas multiple times. She's a Recording Academy voting member and was also named Future of Dance by 1001 Tracklist. Welcome, Bexxie. Happy to have you here.
Hi, Sunny. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm so excited with all you have going on right now. I want to jump into, all of the exciting things that are happening for you career-wise. But first, I want to hear a little bit more about your backstory. I think, people have really been hearing about you in the past few years because you've been gaining so much momentum and had so many, recent successes. But, for people that don't know, you're not an overnight success. And what I want to hear a little bit about is like, how did you come to this point and where did it start? And, what do people not see?
Yeah, okay. So goes back quite a ways away. um, so I grew up in New Jersey and I started raving in the late 90s in the New York City scene. And so that's kind of where I started, like, getting familiar with electronic music and then found out about DJing and started DJing because a friend of mine's boyfriend had some turntables and just had this like house party. And I was like, what are these? And I was so curious, like what all the buttons did, and just fell in love with it instantly. And so I started DJing, yeah, when I was like a teen. And then got into production shortly after that. I went to school for audio engineering in New York in the early 2000s. So yeah, music's been a big part of my life and DJing and dance music culture for a long time. I did it for a while and then I took a break from about 2012 and then I got back into it around 2018, 2019, where I started kind of baby stepping my way back into it again, DJing, and then got Ableton and started producing again. And then, yeah, it's just kind of gone from there. So,
Wow. So, I mean, you really have been doing this for a long time. You mentioned that you took a break and then are now, now you've been fully back for a while. I'm curious more about the break because I think a lot of times artists feel or DJs and producers feel that they can't take a break and come back. And you've done that successfully.
yeah, I mean, honestly, my break was, I didn't think I was gonna come back to music, to be honest.
Really?
It was like, I think around that time I was in my late 20s and I was just, had like a corporate job and was doing other life stuff. And I just thought, okay, maybe that chapter of my life is over now, and moved on to doing some other things. But, it was almost like, this sounds kind of woo, but this is what it is. But it was like a voice inside of me told me one night, like, no, you have to get back into music again. And I was like, no, really? Like, I didn't want to because closing that chapter was, like, tough, because it had
Hmm.
been such a big part of my life for so long, and I had dedicated a lot of my life to it. So I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that again. But that's why I said I baby stepped my way back into it, because I was like, okay, let's follow this ping or voice or whatever that's telling me to do this, and let's just see how it feels, like every little step. Let me just check in and see how it feels. And every time I was just like, yep, yep, really excited about this, love this. Yeah. And then eventually I was like, all right, I'm in it like 100%. So
Wow. So you really it sounds like you argued that voice a little bit in the beginning, but then you listened.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm a big believer in just like listening to your intuition and following it.
Absolutely, especially when you're passionate about something. Like you said, music had been such a large part of your life for so long, and you've always been passionate about it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it just made sense.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So as you were baby stepping your way back into it, like how did you build consistency? Because were you still in the corporate job at that time?
Yeah, so I was working, a full-time, like, 9 to 5 job at the time, and, like I said, I first started with DJing, and then, started, like, reaching out to some local promoters and started to play some stuff locally. I'm now in North Carolina, but so I started playing some, just like a opening slot on a Tuesday night, like, shout out to Robin who gave me that chance to come back. And then got a copy of Ableton, and I'd used other DAWs in the past, so that was my first time using Ableton, and just fell in love with it and, like, the workflow and everything. And then that's when I decided to take Cosmic Academy, the music production and artist development program, and that's really, like, where I feel like a lot of the like, they really help you with that consistency,
Mhm.
because the program, like, just it's they call it a boot camp for a reason. Like, we're pushing you to, like, make music every week and kind of push you out of your comfort zone and see, like, what's possible, like, you think your ceiling's here, but actually maybe it's, like, way up here, so that really helped train my consistency from there.
Yeah, I know so many Cosmic alum, and, I always hear great things, and I think they do a great job of helping, like you said, build that consistency. Like, they do understand the mindset that you need and what you need to grow. So it sounds like making that decision also was an interesting one, right? Because sometimes people make that decision very early on.
Yeah, I honestly wish I had something like Cosmic earlier on when I was younger.
Mhm.
I feel like it would have helped tremendously, but I also believe in, like, timing, and that came at the right time for me. Like, I was more, like, ready and equipped to, to go come back to my music career later in life, having gone through some other life things. And yeah, they teach the mindset thing. That's a big part of it too. Like, I'm a teacher there as well, right? And the first night we talk about that. Like, mindset is like, when it comes down to it, that's really where we see, like, the most successful students that come through the program. It's about their mindset.
Absolutely, and you know firsthand, I completely agree with that because I am all about the mindset and the psychology behind what helps you to be successful in the first place, as well as what allows you to stay there, because if you don't have the right thinking, framework going into all of the different situations that you come up against in the industry, it's really, really hard to keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Like, without that, there's like, like I said, I feel like I came back to it at the right time because I had to go through some stuff. I had to build confidence in myself in other areas of my life. I had, like, didn't done some personal development work, like things like that, that I think was able to prepare me to deal with the music industry and the constant rejection and the, comparison and all of the stuff that comes along with it, that really, without that, it's really easy to just say, "Oh, I give up," or, "Oh, maybe this isn't for me," you know, or just even the visibility of it too, being on social media,
Mhm.
all which is a big part of it now, just putting yourself out there like that, your music, your face, all of that. That could be really scary.
Yes, you really have to learn to be vulnerable, right? Especially on with social media. Obviously, with your music,
Yeah,
that's, one piece, which I think is can be a challenge, but the other piece is also, showing yourself, and because I think people and fans connect with that. They want to pay attention or listen to artists that they feel a connection with. So I think that piece is valuable, and I know not every artist loves that or is a fan of that, and that's like a complete skill that you need to develop.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and I feel the same way. I do feel like fans, they connect to a person, right? Like, they might connect
Mhm.
with your music, but really, like, if they also feel like they relate to you in some way, they connect even deeper with you.
I couldn't agree with that more. I was just talking yesterday, with Erin from BPM, and we were having this similar conversation about how really if people like you as an artist, they like you, they can relate to you, it doesn't really matter whether, one song does better than the other
Yeah,
because they are a fan of you. They relate to you. And I think sometimes artists, especially maybe artists that have done this in the past, that where there wasn't that piece of, like, the human connection on social media that we have now, they don't necessarily understand how valuable that is today.
yeah. Yeah. I think that is, definitely something I had to get used to, like, before I, restarted my artist project, I wasn't really on Instagram. I never
Mhm.
really went on it, posted on it, so I had
So
to
that's
get
a change.
yeah. So, yeah, definitely, it was a change for sure.
Yeah, and I'm imagining that you've seen a lot of changes in the industry since you first started, and, how have you managed to evolve and, and still stay true to yourself? I know you did take a break and came back, but, how have you managed all these changes?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is crazy the changes I've seen, like, even just going from, like, I started on vinyl, and then I remember when CDJs became a thing, and that was a big, like, change in the industry, a big disruption. A lot of people didn't want to play CDs. And then, everything shifting to digital and MP3 and then streaming now. And now I literally just bring like a USB and headphones rather than like a whole crate of records. Like, you used to have to bring a crate of records on the plane, like, and put that in an overhead bin. Can you imagine? Like, my shoulders were, like, killing me dragging that thing around, but yeah, so, I mean, even just that, like, the technology, like, how
Mhm.
much has changed, from the DJ technology to the production technology. A lot of it when I started it was a higher barrier to entry because you needed to have access to a studio with gear. You had to have that gear yourself, and that was expensive.
Right.
Um, and so, yeah, I think it's just one, just I feel like I just still always try to approach things as in like a student way, like I'm still always learning. So I feel like I can like as things change and evolve, I just kind of approach it with curiosity, like I'm learning something new. And I love learning. So yeah, so like as far as the evolution goes, I just find it interesting to see. And also I find it interesting. It's funny to me now because it's like genre names are one thing now, and then they used to be something in the past, and I always find that funny. I'm like, "Oh, we're calling this that now. Okay, that's interesting." You know? And, like, these trends that I've seen kind of cycle, like, come back around, and that's just yeah, it's just fun to me. I just love to, like, sit back and observe all of it?
So many changes, like you
Yeah.
said, on so many different sides of it, and, I'm hearing you say that your mindset of, being open to learning and being curious has helped you because I think the industry has changed so much and it's literally constantly changing still.
Yeah.
So you really, I think approaching it in that way is helpful because you do always need to be learning. Once you stop, you'll be left behind.
Yeah, I mean, change is inevitable, right? That's the phrase.
Yep.
So so I know it can be hard sometimes when things change and you get used to it, but yeah, I think just being open to things changing and evolving because they just always will, and, we might be having a conversation right now about how things are in the industry 5 years from now, like, they could be totally different, you know?
I'm sure they will
Yeah.
be. Even if we have this conversation a year from now, I'm
Yeah,
sure things will be different.
I
Things will
feel
have
like
changed.
they've accelerated even more so in these past few years, but yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think just approaching it with that, just trying to, yeah, just kind of flow with what's going on and be open and yeah, and if it's not for you, it's not for you too, that's okay, you know?
Mhm. Well, and you mentioned earlier that you really are a person who believes in listening to yourself, listening to your intuition. So I'm imagining that's helped you come back to this and be in a space where you can choose your direction.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I feel like yeah, like, if I ignore it, it's always like, "Oh, yeah, I should have listened to it." So I try to be kinda, like, open and make sure that I am listening, and that could just be, like, I use the word intuition, but, like, a gut reaction too is what some people call it, and just trying to listen to that initial, like, how does that feel? Does that feel exciting to you? Or does that make you feel like, kind of constricting, like, "I don't know, that doesn't feel good for me," you know? So I just try to listen to that, and I think that could be really, really helpful for people.
Definitely. It sounds like that's helped you creatively and also to, manage the business side of returning to being doing this full time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And I'm curious about, what you've learned over the years. You've been around the industry for a long time. What have you learned about trust and collaboration and partnerships?
I know we just talked about this, but, like, trust, again, it really comes down to, like it comes down to that, like, gut instinct, right? Of, like, when you meet people, I feel like you can kind of feel, like, the energy and if you're gonna vibe or not, and if it's gonna be a good fit or not, so I try to just trust that, when I work with other people, and like I said, usually when it doesn't kinda steer me wrong when I've when I've noticed things, I'm like, "Oh, okay," like find out things later, like, "Okay, I shoulda listened to that," or I was right about that, like, yeah, so I think just listening to that, and just, yeah, finding people that you vibe with, it's just so much better when you're not doing this, like, alone too, like, it's just fun to do, like, collabs and share in that creative experience together and, share in the making of it and the releasing of it and putting it out into the world, like, it's really fun. I really, really enjoy collabing with people.
Yeah, it sounds like it's less lonely than doing it on your own.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes obviously I love making music and it's fun to just be in the studio and just get into a flow by yourself. And yeah, but sometimes it's just really fun to work with other people and they bring like a different fresh perspective that you may not have thought about before. So yeah.
And going back to, listening to your intuition, it sounds like that really guides you. You have a strong sense of your intuition and are listening to it when you are going into potential partnerships or collabs.
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool. And, like, what would your advice be to artists who are interested maybe in doing a collab, but maybe they've had one that hasn't gone well?
I mean, that happens. I wouldn't say, like, let that stop you from having that experience again, and I think a lot of times collabs, like the best ones for me, they've always come pretty naturally or organically. It's not like you can't force that to happen, you know? It's usually like for instance, I just did a track with Charles D and Weska and just came out on Drum Code. And I knew Charles because he also took Cosmic. So I was
Ah,
introduced from with him through there, and I just, I had been working on top lines as well as my own, music and productions, but I've just been doing top lines just like for fun. It's like another thing, like another creative outlet. I'll just like write some top lines. So anyways, I ran into Charles at Music Week, and it was very brief too, because he was like, I was on my way out somewhere, he was on his way in. So I was just like, "Hey, what's up, Charles?" Like, kind of like caught up real quick, and then I mentioned just as an aside, like, "Hey, by the way, I have some top lines I've been working on. I think I have some that might be a good fit. Like, if you want, I can send them over." He said, "Sure." So I sent them over, and then yeah, and so like he liked one of them, and then took it and ran with it, brought Weska in, and then a year later, it's out on drum code. So, it's just
wow.
like stuff like that. It's like I said, don't force it. It's a very organic process. If you see somebody's doing something that you really like, and maybe not like reaching out to like John Summit or something. You're just starting out. I mean, shoot your shot. Why not? But maybe there's somebody online, like a peer that you're really loving what they're making, like reach out to them and just, open up that conversation, just see, you never know.
Well, I think that perspective is helpful too. And I know that you're a big believer in, also building relationships and putting yourself out there and being in places where, like you said, you and Charles D are running into each other in passing.
Yeah, I mean, I do, I go to Music Week every year pretty much since, it's been open since after COVID, because I got back into production and then we went into lockdown, so that was really interesting. But once things opened up, I've been going to Music Week every year. I've been to 80 once, but I do try to go to places, like, once or twice a year where I can network with others in the industry. And really for me, it's like about just like seeing industry friends and like just being able to like get together and hang out and chat. I try not to approach it to, like I said, in this like forcing anything sort of way. I don't
Mhm.
really I feel like people feel that from you when you approach it that way. It's really, to me, it's just literally about connecting with other people and, through music. And also, like, I'm just always trying to, like, see if there's anything I can do to help others in any way too, just, like, also trying to, like, just connect people or help people however I can too, so
Yeah, I think those 2 things are huge, is like the connecting with people in person. I am the same. I love Miami Music Week and AD because I get to see people that I don't otherwise see
yeah.
and, get to hang out with them, catch up with them, find out what they have going on. And, sometimes that leads to opportunities that I've never even considered before, which is really cool. But, I don't go in with a plan, like you said, that I have to get this from that person or
Right.
whatever. I'm just like out there seeing what happens, loving the music, connecting with people, and having a really good time. And, at the same time, of course, there are meetings or talks that I do, but I'm really there for the human connection, right? And connecting with people through music and for the music. And I think that, is really one of the best things for people's career. If you're in this industry, it's so important to put yourself out there in person, right? I think putting yourself out there online is great too. And you can network online. I see people do it all the time. I've done it. But like there's something extra about the in person. And sometimes things happen that would never have happened otherwise.
Exactly, same. I think it is important to be visible, like IRL, because if people are seeing you like all the time, like they remember you too. So it's like maybe that opportunity didn't present itself that first time that you met, but maybe they say, "Oh, like "Oh, yeah, I remember you from when we met and then, like, something happens from there, you know? So, I think it is important to have that visibility as well. But yeah, there's absolutely still a lot you can do for sure, like, if you don't wanna do in-person networking, there's still a lot that you can do online as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, and I think a lot of times in between the in-person stuff, the online stuff is great because I think everybody's spread out globally.
Yeah.
So, it does make it hard to connect in real life a lot, but I do think it adds, like, extra value when you actually see people and meet them in person. Sometimes there's people I've known for, like, years online, and then when we finally meet in person, it's, like, the greatest thing.
I know, it's like a special moment, right? You're like,
It
"I've
really
seen you,
is.
I've been chatting you for so long, and now I get to finally meet you in person." It's the best. Yeah.
Exactly. And, also the other thing that you did say is that whole adding value thing. I think that really goes a long way. It's one of the best ways that you can build relationships is not, asking for something or not, worrying about, oh, well, I have nothing to say to this person. I think there's always ways to try to add value, even if it doesn't relate to music. There's always things that come up that you can help other people out with, even if it's something really small. That I think means a lot.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even if you, like, literally say you're at an event in Music Week, right? Like, go up to somebody that you feel like maybe they don't know anybody, right? And, like, say hi to them, introduce yourself, make them feel, like, more comfortable, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, like, just I don't know, just something about, like, just trying to yeah, just, like, just having that kind of, like, just helping others, like, mindset, you know? It's like, don't worry so much about, like, "I'm in this room," like, the social anxiety aspect of it too that some of us can get, right? If you're not, like, super extroverted,
Right.
like, put that on to like, "Hey, well, how can I help some other people here?" Instead of like, "Oh god, I'm in this room, like, I'm so nervous talking to people," you know? I think that really can help kinda, like, shift that mindset if you have trouble with that.
Yeah, I think that can be really hard when you're going into a room. It's so easy to get caught up in your own thoughts and fears about the whole thing and, the possibility of getting rejected, self-doubt, worrying about yourself when, those people are probably worried about that too,
Yeah,
right? It's so
exactly.
normal.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, again, figuring out how to help people is really the best way to, talk to people and build a relationship with them, which I think then that is where the magic happens.
Exactly. Exactly, yep.
Yeah. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about like the really cool stuff that you've got going on. I know your music was recently in film and now your song So Good has been on blowing up on ESPN on their TikTok. So I want to talk more about that and the whole experience.
Yeah, so it's kinda crazy because, like, both of those things came out of nowhere, and it's funny because both of those songs came out, like, 2 years ago.
Wow.
So, just wanna say, like, put your music out there. Even if it doesn't do anything, like, initially, you never know, 2 years later, it could be in a film or ESPN's using it in a TikTok, okay? So, but yeah, so I had, my song "Gotta Be Real" got a sync license placement on a Farrelly Brothers film, which is crazy because I grew up
Wow.
watching a lot of their movies, Dumb and Dumber, Something About Mary, like, all of those. But yeah, that connection came through. I work with a publisher and they do like, they have sync placement relationships, but that was my first sync placement since I've been releasing these past 6 years now. So that was like the first one that's come up. So it was really, really cool. And also had no idea like where in the film it was gonna be. And so it was really fun to, like, watch it when it came out and just feel like, see, like, "When is it coming? When is it coming?" You know? And it was, like, in such a fun scene of the movie too. It was, like, perfect. It was, like, at a frat party, this guy's dancing, like, it worked. It worked so well.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, and then the ESPN thing, again, this just, like, I don't know, I have this app called Song Stats,
Mhm.
which, it's like an if anybody's not familiar, it's like kinda aggregates all of your data of, like, Spotify placements and Apple Music and TikTok, and it's, like, anything to do with music, and I just got
Mhm.
this notification from it, and that, like, it was used in an ESPN TikTok, and I was like, "What? That's interesting." So I clicked on the link, and I saw it, and it's like Stanley Cup, like, footage, and it was like, when the Canes were gonna be in the Stanley Cup, and again, I'm in North Carolina, so I'm like, "Whoa, that's kinda cool too, like, Canes," and, like, they're using my song, that's really cool, and then I noticed that then they're using it on other clips, and then, like, other sports, like, networks are using it on theirs, and it's just yeah, it's just this has happened, like, literally this past week, I think, and, um, it's, like, on, like, 12,000 videos now or something on TikTok, so,
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. So I'm hoping, maybe ESPN wants to do something, some sort of sync placement with it, but fingers crossed. Either way, it's such a cool experience, just to see and just, like, see all the videos people are using it in, and yeah, it's just so crazy, you never know.
That's a lot of watch time if you're watching all those videos.
Well, no, but just kinda, like, scrolling through, but yeah, that would be a lot of watch
I'm like,
time.
12,000?
Oh, yeah.
But that is so exciting, and, I think artists are and DJs, producers are getting more interested in syncing. So what, like, advice do you have to offer about that? I know this is your first one, very exciting. You mentioned you work with a publisher, but if someone's interested, what should they do?
Yeah, so this isn't like an area to say I'm an expert in in any way, but from what I know, like if you aren't working with a publisher, because my publisher has a whole team, they have different opportunities that come up. They have relationships, so they pitch music, right? But if you don't have that, I think it's like the same as, pitching to record labels, like getting to know the people that are the music directors, the music licensors, like getting to know them, like finding out who they are, like and building those relationships. I think that's probably a really good start. And then, building those relationships and being able to pitch to them. And then if something comes up that's the right fit, then they'll know, like, hey, this artist reached out to me. They do this sort of music. So like I think this might work. So I think I think it's just like, any of this like in the industry, it's like building up those relationships like you would with labels or other artists for collabing or, it's the same sort of process.
Right. So really building those relationships. And, it sounds like these really exciting things that have been happening. You said these are not brand new songs and they're like getting picked up now. And it sort of goes to show you really don't know
Yeah.
when something's going to happen. But what you are doing, I think you do a really great job at consistently showing up.
Oh, thank you. I try.
Yeah, I think that is like a big piece of it, right? It's not a one-time thing and then you go away, like, when you keep showing up consistently, I think that's when the opportunities happen, that's when a song gets noticed, it doesn't necessarily happen on release day, release month, or even release year, but, you keep putting yourself out there, you keep showing up, and this kind of ties back into what we were talking about is, like, the not quitting.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, because it's like these songs, I mean, they by no means when they came out, like did crazy numbers streaming or anything like that. So it's just you never know, like, just putting your music out there, but, like, consistently building a catalog too over time that you have. Like,
Mhm.
if we wanna talk about, like, monetization, like, you're building assets through that too, right? Of, like, building up this catalog if you're continually releasing stuff. It may not do anything that first week, month, year, but who knows? It could be used for something a few years down the line. And, that song that was just sitting there is now like being used for a film or mm, going viral on TikTok, and those things, just that exposure. Again, if the ESPN thing, nothing happens other than that, which is still really freaking cool. But more people are now exposed to my music. And that could also like more opportunities can happen from there, right? So it's like you're just consistently putting yourself out there. I tell students this too. It's like again, every time you put a song out, even if, like, you don't think it's successful, quote unquote, whatever that means, um, still people are listening and, like, one song might all of a sudden get played by, like, an A-list DJ, and then that A-list DJ, maybe they run a record label and they wanna hear more music from you, and then their A&R's reaching out. Next thing you know, their A&R's reaching out wanting, music, and then you send them some music and now you're releasing with this big label, like just things like that. These connecting the dots of just, yeah, just like, again, putting your music out there, putting yourself out there.
Yeah, and I think that is so important, but also at the same time, I know that many producers do struggle with that, to consistently put yourself out there, to, spend a lot of time in the studio, have releases lined up, and to, just the whole idea of putting things out there can be a lot.
Yeah. No, I get that. I totally get that. And, like we were talking about earlier, a lot of that comes down to like, yes, work on your production. You need to have that skill. Absolutely. You have to have like good quality music to put out there, right? Yes, you need to work on your socials for sure. Like if you want to build your brand and put yourself out there that way. But in order to do those things, you also have to, like I said, do the work on yourself because there's gonna be a lot of things that you might put, like, limiting self-beliefs on yourself or, like, self-sabotage because something gets a little too scary or you get rejected or something like that, and then you just think, "Oh, I'm just not gonna do this," or, like, nervous system regulation, I feel like is a big part of my work too, of regulating my nervous system to be able to handle all of these things that come along with, like, being seen on social media, putting my song out there and or sending it to labels and it getting rejected or getting not so nice comments or, just all of the things that come along with it and just kind of yeah, just building that, like, safety feeling within myself and also, like, building my self-worth too, So I think that's a big part of being able to consistently put yourself out there with your music and your brand and social media.
Completely. You really have to be able to deal with all of the thoughts and feelings that may come up that get in the way and learn how to handle that. And part of learning how to handle those thoughts is, like you said, it's the work on your nervous system. It's being able to be mindful, learning some of those skills to self regulate. And, I think also, too, along these lines of doing, like you said, the work on yourself, you have to really develop some self-awareness, right? About how you show up in situations, what shows up for you, then managing those emotions and then managing relationships and being aware of what other people are going through, especially in as you grow as an artist. you are becoming more of a business, you are having a team. Now you don't only have to manage your own emotions, you have to figure out what's going on for other people. So I think these skills are so important. They're, something I talk a lot about in my book on how to manage those while also staying connected to your purpose and your intuition, right? And listening to yourself. All of these skills combined really help you with being able to be successful and then stay successful as the pressure and responsibility grows.
100%. Yes. Because like, it's easy to, like, if you haven't done that work or built up that, like, those skills, whatever you wanna call it, um, it could be really easy to just go, "Okay, I don't wanna do this. This is too much," and go back to the safe thing, right?
Right.
So yeah, just yeah, I think it's crucial to do that side of things as well as, like I said, the production and the business and side and all of that stuff, but, um, yeah, I just feel like I would not be where I am if I hadn't, and again, I think that's partly why I came back to music later in life. I don't think I would have been ready when I was younger for the opportunities that I've had.
Mhm. That's really interesting. It sounds like over time with other you mentioned earlier life experiences, and I'm sure even your experience on the corporate side and the personal development work you've done have helped get you to a place where you have more confidence, you know yourself better, you sort of know how to navigate some of the pressures and challenges that come up now.
Yeah, exactly, yep.
Yeah. And I really obviously am a firm believer in that, right? You really have to understand yourself to be able to understand others because so much of what happens in the industry, it's not just your music. You're always dealing with relationships, whether that's relationships across the industry at all different levels, but then also your relationship with your audience, your relationship with yourself, and then understanding like you do that it's constantly evolving. It's a learning process. You're always growing and changing, and you're in a different place now than when you were, where you were before you stopped and went full time out of music.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like a totally different person, it feels like that was so long ago, you know?
Yeah, I get that. I get that. I feel that too. I think
Yeah.
over time when you do the work for, your self-awareness and self-growth, the changes that you see in how you make decisions, right? And how you manage stressful situations, it's like night and day. For me as well, going back to years ago.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, for sure.
So, and, I think that you are similar to me and that we're learners, right? We stay curious. And I think even if you don't necessarily have that mindset, it is something that you can learn because there's always room for growth. And especially when it comes to, all what we're talking about is emotional intelligence, right? All of that stuff. And your emotional intelligence, you can increase it. It's not like IQ where it's pretty much fixed. You can change your emotional intelligence. There's tons of things you can do to, build some of those skills. Whether you're an introvert, an extrovert, or somewhere in between, or you change based on the situation, I think there's always room for growth in your relationship with yourself and building relationships with others.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I don't think there's a limit to that either. There's always more onion layers to peel off and learn about yourself, you know? And relationships, I mean, a lot of them are like mirrors, you know? They show you too what are more of those layers that you need to dig into.
The never-ending onion.
Yeah, exactly.
But I like what you said about holding up the mirror because I think when you do work on yourself, you really are holding up the mirror, right? You're reflecting on what are you doing well? Where is there room for improvement? And I think the mirror can also be held up to you in relationships. with other
Yeah,
people, for sure,
exactly. Yep, absolutely.
right? But you have to be willing to learn,
Yeah,
right?
yep, you exactly, and be aware.
Exactly,
Yeah, it's the
exactly.
self-awareness. Yep.
Yeah, the awareness is just everything. I mean, that's the starting point. You have to have that, and, again, that's something you can develop. I think doing reflection on, when things go well and when things don't go well, doing a little reflection about, you know, how you felt, what you were thinking can really help you to figure out, what are the things that I could am doing well and could be doing differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm for sure, like, journaling or, like, if something triggers you, like, why did that trigger you, right? Like, what is it that, like, either that person said or did or whatever, that situation, like, look into, "Okay, why did that make me feel that way?" What is it it's them they're holding up that mirror, right, for you to see about, like, what that is, so
Yes. And I think, a lot of this stuff ties back into your why and your purpose, right? Your voice was telling you you needed to do music. You're passionate about it. You love it. If that's what your voice is telling you, you have to figure out how to listen to it. And if something like an opportunity comes up that feels really uncomfortable, um, does it excite you? Like you said, is it in line with what's important to you? Could it help you with where you want to go and what your goals are? And I think if that's the answer, then you really need to figure out, okay, how do I learn to do this thing? It may not feel comfortable, and that's fine. You may never be comfortable networking. That's totally fine. But you have to learn how to build relationships if you want, to build a lasting career.
yeah, for sure. That's definitely something like, okay, what you said exactly. It's the like, okay, this opportunity has come up, but this makes me feel uncomfortable or this is scary or, just pushing me outside of my comfort zone. So like check in and be like, well, this is an opportunity where I truly am excited about, or is it something that doesn't feel good, right? If you are excited, then you need to figure out a way to push past the fear and just make and jump and do it. Because that's usually where, like, on the other side of that, that's when the magical stuff happens. But again, check in. If because sometimes it can be like, if something's making you feel uncomfortable, it could just be like the fear, like talking, right? But if it really is something that truly like, no, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't feel aligned, then yeah, then I would say like, okay, pass on that.
Yes, I think that that is so helpful in, making decisions as you have to make so many decisions and a lot of times the decisions get bigger, the pressure gets more and you need to be able to check in with yourself, stop, not, make a decision immediately, especially when you're, getting that feeling and pay attention to learn how to make the best decisions for you,
Yep,
for sure.
absolutely.
Well, I am loving talking to you. I think we could be here literally all day.
I know,
Um,
I love talking about all this, all the mindset stuff.
exactly. It's so fun. And we are so aligned in, how we think about a lot of this.
Yeah.
And, I think you are a great example of someone who was able to step away, able to come back, be full time doing this and be successful doing it. And it seems like you're listening to that voice. You're not letting any other thoughts, take you away from your goals. And I'm wondering, has your definition of success changed at all, like, from back then to now?
Yeah, I think when I got back into music, I had certain goals, right? And a lot of it had to do with like, signing with certain labels or playing certain events or, getting on the Spotify playlist and hitting certain numbers and, things like that, which are great, great goals to have. But now for me, I feel like my goals and kind of like my definition of success has evolved since then. To me now it's just more about I'm really just really enjoying the creative process and exploring that more because I feel like we can get caught up, and I've definitely been there myself, but we can get caught up in like, you know, constantly like feeling like we have to make certain things or do certain things in a certain way or and, like, I remember just I wanna go back to that, like, excited feeling, when I'm just kind of, getting back into it, and so just I'm, like, just really interested in exploring creativity, opening up different creative channels. Like, I'm getting back into The Artist's Way, which is a book. I don't know if you're familiar with. Yeah. So getting back into the, like, morning pages. If anybody's not familiar, they have this concept of morning pages where you literally just write 3 pages first thing when you wake up in the morning. And for me, that's like a way of kind of clearing out all of the chatter in your head, you know? And, and I find whenever I get back into that practice, that's where I feel like I can, like, truly just, like, channel some ideas. Um, and yeah, so that to me right now is, like, where I'm at and then just finding, like, the right collaborators, right labels, for that rather than, like, has to be this path going this way.
Right.
So, yeah, just kind of, like, going with the flow at the moment, seeing where it takes me.
Well, and it sounds like that mindset is taking you great places where you're not being, let down or disappointed because you have a completely different perspective than this song has to hit this number, right? When, that isn't necessarily in control.
Yeah, because, there's definitely, like, in the past where there's, like I would almost have anxiety around release day because of, like, expectations that I put on myself, and now I'm like, I I'm just trying to, like I don't wanna have that, I don't wanna have those, like, expectations, I just wanna, like, really just, like, enjoy this process, and not be, like, so worried about all that stuff? So, I mean, sometimes easier said than done, but that's definitely, like, where I'm at right now and where the goals that I'm trying to like, where I'm trying to move towards now.
Mhm. Yeah, I think so many artists get so attached to the numbers, and the more success you have, sometimes you get more attached to those numbers and, trying to create that and having these expectations, and it can really take the joy out of it. It can make you anxious. It can make you actually really unhappy. So really figuring out how to shift the way that you're thinking about it, because I think it's almost a surefire way to be unhappy with what you're doing in the long run.
Exactly, and then, again, if you're not happy doing it, then you're probably not gonna want to do it and, burn out or whatever, and so I feel like, yeah, that just helps with the longevity of this roller coaster of a career.
Definitely, definitely a roller coaster of a career, and since you do have all of this experience, for so many years in the industry, what's one unfiltered truth that people wouldn't know until they're in the industry?
Um, I mean, it is a roller coaster, first of all. And I think also I would say I think before I started, like, releasing music consistently and started, seeing some success with it, I think before when I saw certain things or people having certain success, like, that meant, like, that one thing was gonna change their whole life, like, overnight? And then I was like that I, like, got something similar and I was like, "Wait, that didn't change anything." It's like, "Wait, that one thing." So, like, that one thing, that one label, that one dream gig, that one whatever it is to you, like, yes, those are amazing things, right? But, like, they're not necessarily going to, like, change your whole entire life, right, or change your whole career, but, like, I think just being kind of like, "Okay, this thing happened. What can I do with it now that it's happened?" And, like, you'll see other again, like I said earlier, other opportunities. It's just that, like, building up that more, like, exposure and visibility of, that opportunity can lead to another thing, right?
Yeah. I like that one. I definitely think that people realize that very quickly. Once, like you said, you do have that goal and then you hit it and, you realize that that doesn't completely change things, and even though that may be an up, there will be downs
Yep.
because this is a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And, I think accepting that piece really is key to, learning to navigate the highs and lows because, there's a lot of them and they're
Yeah.
different levels.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. I mean, whatever level you're at, I think all of us experience these highs and lows.
Exactly, exactly. And what is one hard lesson, aside from that this is a roller coaster, that, you've had to learn?
Oh, hard lesson. I guess I mean, I feel like that was kind that was kind of a lesson that I learned, but also I think the rejection piece was definitely a lesson to learn, and I think that could be really tricky at first. You do have to develop a bit of a thick skin. I love the mindset. When I heard this really connected with me and made me like it really helped kind of shift it for me when I was getting rejections was like rejection is just redirection, right?
Mhm.
And I usually then that's what I found. I think this what happens is you have these and then you start to see and like, "Oh, wait, actually, this wasn't meant for that label. This was actually meant for this label." And then it comes out on this label, and then this other thing happens because of it. And you start as you look back like, as I look back, I can kind of, like, see these dots that have connected, you know? So, yeah, I mean, definitely rejection is, like, a hard one at first, I think. Um, but, yeah, if you just try to remember, like, that no is actually redirecting you to something that's actually probably better meant for you, you know?
Absolutely, and you will have so many no's. I
Yes.
think, figuring that out, I think for some artists, I think the rejection piece, it gets maybe easier, but I think for a lot it doesn't, right? I've worked with creatives for decades, whether that's singers, actors, and now, in the music industry in more recent years, and I think there are certain people that never get used to the rejection. They never necessarily develop that thick skin, so they say, but I think they do learn that this is part of the process. I have to accept it, and you know what? I may get 100 no's before I get a yes, but I have to focus on what is in my control, right? The control that you have is putting yourself out there. You don't know where it will lead, and measuring that progress too, I think is an important piece too.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. It's like you have to just kind of say, "Okay, like, this is just part of the process," and sometimes it doesn't
Mhm.
always feel good, right? Like, but just knowing that eventually there's going to be a yes, you just have to keep moving forward and keep pushing.
Absolutely. Keep moving forward, keep pushing, and what do you think matters most? Talent, consistency, or resilience?
Okay, if I had to order them, actually, I would say consistency first, because you have to build those habits and be
Okay.
consistent, and that consistency leads to, like, consistently working in the DAW till eventually you make songs that are finally at a place where you can release them, and then the consistency of releasing, the consistency of your socials, right? All of
Mhm.
that stuff leads up to then the resilience piece, which is we kind of touched on with the rejection because as you start to be consistent and put things out there, then you got to build up that resilience of putting yourself out there and that rejection, right? Um, and then talent, I would say talent's at the bottom. Like, obviously, some people just naturally have these natural talents and gifts, and that could be helpful for sure. But without the consistency part, if they're not consistently working on them or consistently using their talents, they're not gonna nothing's gonna happen with them, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. It seems like somehow in almost every podcast, I always come back to James Hype and his posts about consistency
Yeah, it's
because
so
it
true.
is so true. Like the consistency is everything. If you can't do that piece, nothing else is gonna happen.
Exactly, like, you that's the biggest practice of just, like, making a habit out of whatever you're trying to do, whatever, consistency, whether that's music or, like, what do they say, like, Steph Curry would take, like, those three-pointer shots, like, just over and over and over again, right? I mean, till it becomes just, like, muscle memory.
Right, repetition, make it a routine and a habit, and I think it's not easy, especially when, you have a lot of different things going on or you're touring. I think that throws in lots of challenges to consistency.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm not one of those people that can, work on their laptops on the plane.
Mhm.
Which, like, I envy those producers that can. I don't know, I find it's, like, I can't hear much even with my headphones, everything's so loud, like,
Loud.
you don't have a ton of space, like, so I'll work in the lounge or at the gate or whatever, but, yeah, it's hard for me to work on the actual plane.
But that's interesting, right? You see a lot of posts of producers producing on the plane. I don't know if they're really doing it or that's for social media, but I think, that goes back to something that you've been saying is that you have learned what works for you, right? You are aware, you know what works, what doesn't work, and you move forward in that way. You know you're not getting production done on the plane, so you don't do it.
Yeah. That's usually when I'll have my downtime. I'll
That's
take
great.
watch some movies or play my Switch or something.
Nice. I mean, I think it's all about figuring out what works for you, and it seems like you've done that, and even in the ways that you've shifted your mindset in terms of success, that's really helped you where you are currently.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. I'm always trying to figure out things, that work for me and then adjust accordingly.
Absolutely. That's what I think it's about, and you're doing so many things to make it happen, and such cool things are happening for you. It's super exciting.
Thank you so much, Sunny. I really appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you and you being here. I, can't wait for ESPN to lock in on the song.
I know, fingers crossed. Hopefully. We're working on it.
Definitely. My fingers are crossed.
Yes,
So,
thank you so much.
thanks again for being here, and thanks for listening to Psych Drop. The conversations that we're having here are about understanding what's really going on beneath performance and decisions and leadership, and how people sustain success as their responsibilities grow in this industry. I'm Dr. Sunny, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.